It's me. Hi everyone, welcome to the show. So today we're going to talk about children, specifically not my children, because I don't have any children. We're going to talk about children because I think we have a big responsibility as adults to children, whether we choose to have them or not. It's just my opinion. But of course, I am not the parent of a human child, so we did speak to my sister-in-law a little bit later, who brought my gorgeous niece and nephew into this world. Round of applause for mothers. Oh my goodness. Okay, but before we get into all of that, let's see what the cards have to say for us today. Oh, the star. This jacket is making me sweat. Get rid of it. The star is a really special card. It invites you to heal. It's a little glimmer of hope and sort of a message that like all is well. So if you've been really worried or fretting over something, just take a deep breath maybe and allow whatever is happening to happen. It'll work out. Yeah. That feels right. Okay, before we get too far in, let me tell you about today's outfit. So today's look is called 27 Club Kid. So it's like a textured two-piece black rock star set kind of thing that I got for New York Fashion Week last year. And I paired it with these long black gloves and these crazy DIY belt boots. I got so many compliments on these boots, actually. I went with this like white-faced makeup to kind of emulate a ghost because this look is sort of a love letter to the people lost to mental illness, which is a group of I always anticipated I'd be a part of. I was really lucky because my life was saved by my parents, and I think about that a lot, how lucky I am to have that. I think we forget that so many people we see struggling with addiction and on the streets, you know, they're no different than you and I. They just have less support. I just feel like so many tragedies could be prevented with a good dose of love and support, especially stemming from like childhood, hence today's episode. Okay, let's dive in. Recently, I found out that children in Japan often run errands by themselves, and it's pretty common practice to see like very young kids walking around the cities and like alone and doing their own thing. It appears like there's a collective understanding that it's everyone's job to protect these children. And it got me thinking, why don't we have that here? So I was a dance teacher for over 10 years, and I don't know if it's my own intuitiveness towards emotions, but I found myself just very hypervigilant about children's emotional experiences, and I started to really notice how they would feel in my dance class. The more I leaned into this kind of like intuitiveness that I had with kids, I started to realize how much they were struggling. And I think there's a pretty logical explanation for it. I'll speak specifically about teenagers. Think back, if you're not a teenager anymore, think back to when you were a teenager. You only cared about what was going on at school and in your life. Like those things, yes, maybe you had a few like world issues on your mind, but realistically, it's kind of a running joke that teenagers don't care about anything but themselves, right? What's going on at school, that is everything, because at that stage in their life, they're learning about community and socializing and society and all that stuff. That was so important, I think, to a teen's development, that sort of like gossipy rumor mill, those years. Your friends were like an escape. You ignored the real world as a teen. That was like the whole point. And now teens are connecting through social media. And because you're connecting through social media, you can't ignore the real world because there's all the videos of all the world stuff going on. And because of the pandemic, it took them away from pivotal years of socializing, but also being a teenager is a really hormonal time. There's a lot going on and it's really hard to decipher things like biologically. These huge like world stories and issues and like systems that are so corrupt, we can hardly even deal with it as an adult. Can you imagine what the teenage brain, hormonal, absolute wackadoodle craziness that's going on? Can you imagine them trying to decipher that? No wonder they are so existential. Now, I actually haven't been able to teach since the pandemic, and it really seems like a lot of these changes have happened over the last 4 years. And I even had a friend of mine who's a teacher say that he doesn't notice a lot of bullying in school. Like, obviously there's tons of cyberbullying, but he just said that teens seem so like apathetic. And that strikes me as really odd. You know, I think that kids are really undervalued in society. We seem to think that they have no idea what they want in life and they're just like completely little amoebas who are total imbeciles. But it's not true. Children are so valuable. They have a lack of bias that is so valuable to hard-headed adults. Everybody told me it was a phase. And you know what? It wasn't. Clearly. So kids are often more connected with their life purpose than adults are because of this lack of bias. I knew I wanted to be a performer when I was walked out of the womb. My life goals have certainly evolved, but they have never really changed. I knew exactly who I wanted to be. And I'll tell you something else. I knew that I was polyamorous when I was a young kid, and that might shock people. When I say that, I mean like I felt the feelings, but I didn't really like have a word for it back then. And before you write me off for being polyamorous, please know that it is just about the amount of love I have to give, not the amount of Don't judge me. The point I'm trying to make here is that we like love to bury our heads in the sand when it comes to uncomfortable conversations with children. Like, I never got the sex talk, and I think the sex education given to our younger generations is like problematic at best. I can speak from experience when I say that avoiding conversations around things like sexual health and urges and like queerness, I mean, that had a direct effect on me. I really think that if more of my questions had been answered as a child and there was less shame around those conversations and questions, I think I would have made a lot of like more better choices in regards to my sexual health. If I just like understood, it just would have saved me like a lot of pain and confusion. And I do think it's on the parents, but as a dance teacher, I got asked weird questions sometimes and I had to learn how to respond. You know, you at least just have to know how to respond to these types of questions in an age appropriate and honest way. I'm not saying you need to like initiate these types of conversations. I don't know if we realize how much shame we dump on kids. They don't know that it's a weird question. You making them feel weird about it, it's gonna make them feel weird for like the rest of their lives. Would you rather they ask these questions to like trusted adults or their equally messed up peers? I mean, kids think about this stuff regardless. Like, don't make them feel so ashamed and weird for it. You thought about this stuff too, I bet. Sicko. As soon as I reference sexuality, it's like, oh my God, why are you sexualizing children? Well, learning about their sexuality is a part of an adolescent's life. Ideally more for the teenagers, but puberty happens at different times for different kids. They have a right to explore their sexuality. You can't take that away from them. I'm not sexualizing children by saying that they will experience sexual things in their life. These are not subject matters that I would be talking about with kids. I'm not going to go up to a child and say, hey, what are your sexual preferences? No, because that's inappropriate because I'm an adult. But kids might talk with other kids about their sexual preferences because they're two kids figuring out how to be future adults. And yeah, that might gross you out. It might make you feel weird, but it's a fact of life. They are going to be adults. They're not going to be kids forever. So we have to treat them as future allies. And I'll say it, the trans kid argument is crazy. Before you freak out, number one, trans people have been around since the dawn of time. It is not a new thing. It's not like a bunch of people taking over the world. Number two, every trans person that you will ever speak to, every single one, I promise you, will say that they felt this way as a child. Number three, all of those bills that you're, fighting for, they're like threatening to take the rights away from parents. I understand the fear that parents feel as soon as they hear that, oh my God, like they're going to take my rights away. They're not taking your rights away unless there is significant evidence to prove that the child is in danger of being abused or neglected, period. So when you're fighting for these bills, you're actually fighting for the rights of abusive parents. So it's really important to recognize that difference. Oh, I just don't want kids to go through surgeries like when they're under 18. Like, first of all, we don't do bottom surgery on minors in Canada, period. It's illegal. And a lot of the numbers of those surgeries that are happening, they also include, young girls getting breast reductions and things like that. It's not just like trans kids like chopping the tits off, all right? Not even just within the conversations around trans rights. I'm noticing like a huge fear increase in parents. And it's fair. The world is scary. I think it's great that we're moving away from, sending kids off to sleepovers and like things like that. I get it. But I also think we've moved too far in a direction where we're withholding children from the opportunity to have experiences. And children have a right to be traumatized. I know that sounds fucked up. We don't want them to come to harm. It's obviously we want them to be safe. But where's the balance? What's the right choice? Because I'm not a parent, obviously. I don't know what that's like to have a literal like human being come from your genetics. Like that must be a crazy bond. I hear ya. But it feels like there's something wrong. There's something broken in this system. And I think it starts with the health of the parents. So I want to introduce you to someone very special to me, my sister-in-law, Nicole. Watching her and my brother become parents has been just such a great blessing. They're incredible parents and they have two beautiful children. Both of her pregnancies were pretty intense. With the first baby, she broke her leg like a couple weeks in and was in a crazy like cast the whole time. With her second baby, she struggled with hypermesis, which is like the constant throwing up. Now, I don't think we've done enough studies on how pregnancy really affects women because like, I'm pretty sure, isn't there a whole fourth trimester? Like, I didn't even know that. Did you guys know that? Fourth trimester? Now, for somebody who is pregnant, that transition is obviously, there's hormones and biology involved, but I also think it applies to just new parents in general. Finding your identity after you become parents, like, that must be so crazy. Like, how do you find an identity within that?
It's hard. I feel recently have started to prioritize going out and doing my own thing. And Aaron actually has encouraged me to do it because it can drive you a little wonky when you're just home with the kids all the time and you start to feel like you are the kids. Like you aren't your own identity.
You
like
are one.
Yeah, like I feel like a gorilla, like a weird gorilla that carries around a baby gorilla.
Oh my God. That is so picturesque.
Yeah, and I'm just like walking around with my baby gorilla all the time. And she just
You're like not connected to the rest of human life.
No, I'm not. So when I go out on my own, it's really relaxing. Like I don't even have to do much. I could just go to Costco, which is kind of sad.
It's just thrilling.
It's like a vacation.
Yeah.
Like I could look at ramen noodles and just like, you know what? This is really peaceful.
Well, it's weird because it's like you can't make yourself a priority because your baby has to be a priority. So those small moments where like you get to have coffee by yourself or like you get to go to Target, or we're Canadian, so Costco.
Yeah.
Postpartum is something that a lot of women struggle with.
Yes.
And I don't think it's talked about enough.
With Jax, I feel my postpartum was like pretty good. And I didn't feel like I changed too much, surprisingly. Like
I don't think you did either.
Yeah, I had a baby and then I just kind of was myself and I was really active and I felt very healthy. Whereas with Jade, I feel like it hit me harder. Like even what you think about, and I didn't even notice certain things. Like I have a little bit of like postpartum anxiety and even like worrying about them to a level which is a bit aggressive. Like Jax in his bedroom, I'll be like looking at his camera like, are you alive?
It sounds so stressful. And I definitely saw it in you the second time around. You know, after you guys had Jax, we were like, you guys are great. Like he's so chill, everybody's so chill, it was great. But then with Jade, I definitely noticed the shift within you where you were just like, there were just moments of you not being yourself.
Totally.
And I remember when we were in Palm Springs and you started cooking and it was like you felt okay. I think probably because the whole family was there, so we were taking the kids a little bit. You guys actually got to nap a little, like catch up on sleep.
And I wasn't sleeping.
Yeah, at all. And so I remember you in the kitchen cooking and I was like, oh my God, it's Nicole.
Yeah.
Like it was like you were just back for like
I think
a
I
second.
started to go, I wouldn't even put it this aggressively, but I started to go a little crazy because I wasn't sleeping with Jade. She was like kind of almost up maybe 8 or more times, so I only was getting maybe 2 hours at the very most a night. So I think that affects your health and your mental health too, right?
Well, the lack of sleep is one of the worst things for you. Can't you go into like psychosis after like 3 days?
I heard that.
That's crazy.
Yeah. When I was trying to sleep train her, I think one time with Erin, I was like, she needs to go to bed on her own. And then Erin was like, relax. Like, you're being so aggro.
She's literally 4 months old.
I know. So then he was like, no, I'm gonna sleep train her. And he actually, I think he realized then he took her completely and tried to like handle it on his own because he could tell I like desperately needed sleep and I needed a break.
Oh, that's good. It's good to have a good partner. You navigate like these changes within yourself because realistically, this is a whole different life.
I didn't think much of it. I feel like when you take everything on in life, regardless if it's kids or a new job or new relationship, I feel you just naturally kind of just get through the next stage and you can't go back. So it's very natural. And I think it's hard, but then everything in life can be hard, regardless if you have kids or not. So like if you go through a breakup or just anything in life, you have to kind of just get through it and you get to the new stage and you have to just know that the next stage that's coming is going to have moments that are exciting and happy. Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah.
When did you what was your first time ever thinking about becoming a mom?
Oh my goodness.
Did it ever pop into your head or was it just kind of a right guy, right place?
I think it was a right guy, right place. Like I never pictured this family idea and I just was so focused on myself and like my own happiness and being healthy and doing my own thing.
Yeah.
And then once I met Aaron, then I was like, okay. And then I knew right away, I was like, okay, this is the person that he would be a good dad.
Aww.
Yeah. Especially seeing him around my nieces. I was like, okay.
I want to know what advice you would give to somebody that doesn't know whether or not they want to have kids yet.
I would say to them, try not to put too much pressure on it and trust your instincts. And also, you don't need to have kids. Some people I feel are pressured into it, and some people even with just one kid. There's people that come to them and say, when are you having your other kid? And it's like, sometimes that's not right for them. And I think you know when you know if you want children. It's a huge commitment. There's ups and downs, but it's very rewarding. But it's also very rewarding if you don't want to have kids, and there shouldn't be any pressure. So try not to put pressure into the decision.
I like that. That's good advice.
I'm not sure if I want to have kids, and that's not necessarily because I don't want a family. I know I want
want to have a family. That fear actually more so comes from like the lifelong tie that's associated with having a kid with someone. I'm more afraid of that. To me, choosing who to have a kid with is like a wild choice. Marriage doesn't scare me at all. Getting pregnant, that is an unbreakable bond. There's a baby now. I have my own personal reasons why I wouldn't necessarily choose to have an abortion.
But obviously, I believe in the right to choose because I'm not a monster. And that actually makes me the pro-life one. If you're pro-choice, that actually means you're the one who's more pro-life because more people are actually dying under the pro-life movement. Like women are dying under the pro-life movement. So if you're pro-choice, you're actually like pro-life because no babies are being murdered. That's actually just a fake thing. Think about that.
Making that choice to have a child with someone is, to me, like probably the biggest choice you'll ever make in your life. I was an egg donor for years. I've helped a few families have children, and a few of those families were single parents. I was able to meet them, and I just knew how wanted those children would be. That was a really special gift I was able to give. I know there's issues within the egg donation industry and adoption industry, and that's a whole discussion, but it was one of the greatest things I've ever done, and I don't regret it at all. My heart goes out to you, parents. You have such a hard job. Holy crap. Stay-at-home parents, too. I don't understand why any stay-at-home parent is like considered less than. That underlying lack of appreciation and support we have for parents, but I think where it really shows in single parents, because as a society, we should really band around single parents, but instead they're almost looked at as if they're like a stain or like it's like somehow their mistake. When it's like, I mean, it's remarkable to be raising a kid on your own. I have a general understanding that like it takes a village. This is something that I believe in, and I like think it's my responsibility to the kids around me. But I don't feel like a lot of people actually hold that view. Even those passing moments between you and any child, whether it's your child, someone else's child, a stranger's child, you have a responsibility to them because they are inherently fragile. That's what I believe. I just believe that like we are raising a society. Think about those stupid belief systems that you've like picked up as a child. Most of the time those came from like just passing comments as from adults that they don't even remember. Think about some of your most traumatizing moments. A lot of the times the people who traumatized you literally don't even remember, which is A, very annoying, but B, very interesting because I think it shows the difference in brain concentration, malleability, whatever you want to call it, kids and adults. For an adult, it's like just a passing moment that you completely forgot about. But for a kid, it could be a lifelong belief system. So that's why it frustrates me that people don't see their role to children, whether they choose to have kids or not. If you're an adult, you have a responsibility to children. That's just my thing.
Watching my friends become moms has made me even more impressed by single mothers or single parents.
Me too.
Like,
How do you do it?
it's crazy.
Yeah, I find it just wild.
That's wild.
Aaron, he puts his all into being a dad. He doesn't think everything's my job. Like he doesn't expect this like grandiose meal to be ready when he gets home.
Right. Yeah.
He's willing to pick up a lot of the pieces and help out a lot, which is I'm grateful because it's like you said, mostly it is put on the woman. Mm-hmm. And she's expected to kind of hold the house together, but it's a lot of work. Like, especially if you have a baby that's like attached to you all the time. How are you supposed to make a big dinner or like have the house spotless? I just don't think it's a reasonable expectation.
No, not at all. People don't understand like staying at home. You're not just like chilling at home.
No.
Like it's not fun to sit with those little psychos
I know.
for like 14 hours.
Yeah, they like smash you in the head over and over again, and then you're just like getting hit in the forehead and you have to like keep your composure. You're like, yeah.
You were talking a little bit about how like when Aaron would come home and he'd be like, oh, today was a great day at work, and he'd be like, I need you to shut up because I just got shit on.
And
like,
it's true. And it's true. I have to be a little more conscious too. Like I want to celebrate his wins, which sometimes it's like my day was so hard. It's hard to celebrate his wins because I'm so focused. I'm like, I literally just had to clean a hamper that got peed in. Like, and it's tough to celebrate someone's wins when you're like, I'm struggling.
You're like, I just watched my toddler backhand my baby, but
I know.
glad you had a great day.
I know. Yeah, he literally did that today. And I was like, who are you?
God, little psycho.
But then they're learning.
Yeah.
They're learning like about their emotions. So I almost have to take myself back and realize, okay, like I have to have grace with my child.
Yeah.
But sometimes I feel like I'm living with a little crackhead.
He is a little crackhead, let's be honest. We love him, but he's a little crackhead. Do you notice that when your friends become moms or parents, they will just whip out their birth story or like something so nasty? They'll be like, oh my God, my hemorrhoids are like out of control. And you're like, I just asked you if you wanted a copy. Like,
It's true. Yeah. I mean, I've never really had a filter. So now it's kind of like, I don't think I've changed too much in that regard. I even talked to Aaron about it. He's like, you can't just tell people that our kid crapped all over the wall. That's not normal. Like, people that don't have kids think that's weird. And I'm like, really? And I was like, I thought it was really funny. And he's like, it's
I'm
not.
just talking about my day.
I know.
That is honestly a really difficult thing. Your day to day involves your children. So that's what you have to bring to the conversation.
Oh, yeah.
So it kind of makes sense.
Yeah.
It's maybe
true.
why moms need mom friends.
It's very true.
We should talk about some of the gross shit.
Okay. All right.
So Nicole specifically wanted to make sure that she let you all know what happened to her nipples after she breastfed.
Pre-babies, I had pretty nice boobies.
How are they looking now?
I just feel like your nipples they're not even in the same shape. Like, and people don't warn you about this. They're like, I feel like one's circle and one's like a hectagon. But it's like it's like spreading.
Wait, is this pre-breastfeeding or like just birth?
I think I don't know if this is the way they'll be forever. Maybe this is just me now.
What do
So,
you think? Your
maybe.
nipples are actually two different shapes?
Yeah.
For real?
Yeah. This one.
It's got to be from breastfeeding then, right? Does she like a boob better than another? Do you have a better boob?
She likes both of them, but she's really aggressive with them. She like grabs one and then she also does this thing where she stretches and I feel like she's gonna like rip my nipples off of my body.
I don't know how anyone does it. Do you remember when Jack spit my nipple in Palm Springs and I started crying?
I know. That was really
cried.
awful. I felt bad. I don't know why he just randomly bit your nipple. He was like a toddler at the point.
That was so crazy. He
was
literally
weird.
just came and laid on me and then just bit my nipple.
Yeah, that was effed up.
It was so random. Yeah, that was so random. And that was so painful. That hurt more than getting both of my nipples pierced.
Really?
Straight up.
And it's funny because I breastfed him a year and he had, I think, 6 teeth when he was a year and he would bite them all the time. And I'd be out to dinner and I'm like, he bit my nipple. And everyone's like, oh, whatever. And I'm like, it hurts.
Oh.
It feels like they're coming off.
No, like literally, I thought he bit it off. Like
Yes.
I legitimately was like,
And
my
he had a
nipple
full
is
set of
detached.
teeth.
He had a full set of teeth.
That's fucked
up.
It's really messed up.
That is messed up.
Why would he
did
do
they
that?
do that?
I know.
What's wrong with them?
It's like things like that.
Honestly, I kind of love the gross shit. This is what parents are experiencing day to day. Their day to day is piss, shit, and vom. You know what? That's what they have to contribute to a conversation. That's what they're experiencing. So who am I to hold it against them? I love being a part of my friends' villages. Like, you know, I will admit my friends started having kids when I was still taking shots of vodka. So our timelines were a little different. But being an auntie is like such a great gift. If someone you know is having a baby, I mean, remember that like they're going to completely change as a person. You can't hold them to the standards of who they used to be. They have a whole human to take care of now. Their priorities are completely different. Not to mention if they were pregnant, their body and hormones they're like biologically different. If you are about to become a parent or you have friends that are about to become a parent, this is Nicole's advice. If a new mom came up to you right now, what would you say to them?
I would tell them just to enjoy it and just be present, and it's wonderful. And when you have like a little bean baby, it's just the most amazing thing, just staring in their little eyes. But also, babies are all different, and you might have a baby that's a little wacky, but just get through it and you're gonna have a good time or a bad time, and just accept it and try to get support and help when you need it. And anyone that isn't a parent and knows someone who's becoming a new parent, I would say like they need help, man. Bring them a meal, like do their dishes, help them with a little bit of laundry. That like helps them astronomically.
People who are new parents especially, like they've got a lot on their plate.
Yeah.
Is there any other pieces of advice that you would give to friends of parents?
I guess the biggest thing for me is try not to be so judgmental. And it's hard to say because even I would look at the way certain people parented before I was even a parent, and I'd say like, or even giving certain advice, which it comes from a good place and it's always great to get the advice, but sometimes it can feel very like overwhelming and overstimulating when there's like 7 people throwing advice at you and you're like, you're just trying to get through it. And you're like, oh, try not to be so judgmental because it's hard. Being a parent is hard. So just pat them on the back and say, you're doing great. Because there's so much advice parents already get. And sometimes it's like, it's good advice and it's appreciated, but I feel like it has to be warranted sometimes.
And sometimes you just don't want to hear it.
Yeah.
You know, like sometimes you just don't need the advice.
Yeah.
You just want somebody to just tell you you're doing great.
I've learned that now with 2 kids. Like, if I don't want the advice, I'm freaking gonna tell you.
Yeah.
Like, I'm just gonna be like, all right,
You're like, I don't care.
let's wrap it up.
That's so good.
Get the hell out of here.
Hi, do me a favor. Can you leave? I honestly think you do a great job of it. Like I've seen it before. You literally just go, yeah, probably. I don't think I'm gonna do that. That's usually you're pretty chill about it. You're like, no,
Yeah.
but thank you.
Yeah, it's like I try to, and that's the thing, I try to appreciate, because I know it comes from a good place, but I think it's important to value that and just say, not feel guilty for shutting a conversation down, because I feel we have to please other people and not honor our own emotions. And if something's making you really uncomfortable or you don't like it, you can just say, you know what, I appreciate that, but let's change the subject because I don't want to talk about this right now.
Vibes.
Yeah.
That's really good advice. Good thing for anybody to practice, but
Yes.
especially somebody who's becoming a mom.
Oh yeah. Even as a parent, when someone's giving advice, it's coming from a kind, good place. Sometimes you're going to get offended, but you have to put that away, because the reason you're offended isn't because of what they said. It's because of your perception and your reality. And you have to like look internally and say, like, why was I offended by that? 9 times out of 10, it's because of your own self. Like, it's nothing they did wrong.
Right. Like it's like your own lack of like feeling worthy or
Totally.
like you feeling good enough as a parent.
The reason I find for myself I get annoyed or I kind of get short is because I don't feel comfortable in my own self. And I question my own confidence as a parent and that I'm doing something wrong. So I have to look inward and say, why was I triggered by that comment? And it wasn't because of them, it was because of my perception of myself. You have to realize you have your own children and you have your own home.
Yeah.
People aren't coming from a negative place, and I think sometimes as humans we create the story in our heads when it's not reality. And people actually, they could be feeling a certain type of way that's not even related to you, and you're creating the story in your head. Thinking differently of people and thinking they're coming from a negative place is just gonna make your reality worse.
Sounds a lot like just radical acceptance.
100%.
Like just being like, it is what it is.
yes,
Moving on.
it's true.
I have a human to raise.
Yeah. And also with that, if you feel someone is uncomfortable or you're getting a certain vibe from them, it's also okay to mention it. I find like we all think we should just be like, you know what, like maybe I'm second guessing it or maybe I'm wrong, but just ask them. Just say like, you know what, I got a certain vibe. Like, how are you feeling? Is everything okay? I just want to check up. Or you don't have to like stuff it internal. Like just check up on your friends or your family. It's okay.
I love that. That's such good advice. Communication is key. It is quite a shift when your friends are in a different phase of life than you. It's weird, you know? You're not thinking about the same things as them, but that's part of friendship. Evolution, you change, you prioritize different things, and I know that can be really hard and it can have some growing pains, but your friendship will just evolve in different ways. And if you're on 2 different timelines for now, it's okay. If it's meant to be, you'll find your way back to the same timeline. Don't underestimate how valuable you are as a friend to those new parents who have nothing to give you and not even an ounce of appreciation to show you. Don't underestimate how valuable you are to them, and give them a little bit of slack, because it's hard raising a human. And I'm not saying that you don't deserve great friendship, but if you love them, it's important to know that they will always love their kid more than you. You're not important anymore. You're not. They have a baby. I don't know if that's wrong to say, but for me, like, I don't ask my friends with kids for favors. I really try not to. And I don't feel bad about that. I don't think that it means that they're a bad friend. I just think it's just not their time to help me. They have enough on their plate. If you want lifelong friendships, you have to be comfortable with those low moments and those times when you're not as tight or you're not able to give each other what you need. It's like, they're just ebbs and flows of a relationship. It doesn't necessarily mean that like your friendship is over. It might just be going in a different direction for now, and you'll find your way back to each other in a different place. Or maybe not. Who cares? Now, if you listen to this whole episode and you hate kids, first of all, congratulations for making it to the end. I'm very proud of you. But I want you to ask yourself why. If you really hate kids, look in the mirror and ask yourself why. Because I bet you have some inner child healing to do. And that's all I'll say on that. Thank you so much for opening your mind up with me today. Don't forget to be kind to yourself and others, okay? Love you. Bye.